Everybody, and welcome to this KMR Speed Report week number 3. I'm glad to be guest hosting this week in place of Cookie as he and his wife celebrate their wedding anniversary this week. So it is my honor to fill in for him. And I'd also like to welcome in KMR Truck and X Series driver Josh the Game up here in the studio with me. Welcome, Josh. We appreciate you coming in here to talk about the speed report and all the news going on at KMR. But first, before we get going, we have breaking news. All KMR races this weekend, so the Truck, the X, and the Cup Series are postponed until next week. So all the races this weekend that were scheduled to race at Homestead Miami Speedway for both the Truck, the X, and the Cup Series. All three series have been pushed back to July 25th and 26th. So the Truck will race on July 25th at 6 p.m. The X Series will race July 25th at 8 p.m. And then the Cup Series at Homestead will race July 26th at 5 p.m., all in Eastern Standard Time. So just be aware of that. There are no KMR races this weekend. Enjoy the week off. And we will see you guys July 25th, 26th. So let's get started. Josh, in the Truck Series, I know you raced in the Truck Series. The 12 truck of Hunt makes his debut and wins the race. So Hunt wins in his debut. How do you think this is going to set the tone for his season in KMR?
Well, honestly, it was a great start for Hunt coming out of nowhere. It was very surprising. I've raced with him before, but he was very good, and looks like he has a great future ahead of him for KMR.
Absolutely. So knowing that Hunt comes in just out of nowhere, wants to sign in, signs with the trucks, he runs the 12, leads the most laps at Talladega, and then goes on to win. What does this say for the rest of the field? Is it just a one-off, or is he going to start racking up a bunch of wins?
Well, honestly, it's a plate track, so anything can happen. Anybody can win, but I think we better watch out. He's a very talented driver, and I think he has what it takes to become a truck champion.
Absolutely. So Hunt won the race. Tresh finished second. Tresh drives the 73. We're going to stick with my custom 30 because we don't have one of those. So Tresh finished second at Talladega. What can we expect from him the rest of the season? He missed the Daytona race. He's raced in KMR before. He sits seventh in points. What do you think he's gonna have to do to try and compete for that title?
Uh, to be honest, he's just gotta keep digging and keep practicing. Every race that he's raced, he's gotten better and better and better, and I could see it continuing.
Absolutely. It's very exciting to see the Truck Series in action. It's very exciting to see the drivers compete for a title in the Truck Series. It's just exciting to see the newcomers come into the series and show the rest of the league what they have in store and what they can do on the racetrack. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Truck Series will do at Miami. But moving on, let's talk about the 87 of Tons of Fun. He did get called up to the X Series. We'll get a chance to talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about Tons right now in the Truck Series. He raced last season. He was in contention for a title, but didn't get the title for and ended up winning the championship last season. Many people are considering him the favorite this season to capture the championship in the KMR Truck Series. He is the points leader, but he does not have a win yet. Can he lock himself into the chase in the playoffs with a win? And if he does that, can he capture the title?
Well, he's very good at the restrictor plates, and we might race a few more, and I've seen him race, and he's really good. And I think he can be the top contender in the Truck Series, like he almost did last year.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting. It'll be very, very exciting to see Tons come back in the Truck Series. We'll see what he can do now that Foreign and Wes are not racing in the Truck Series. They have moved on. That gives the opportunity to the 87. So let me ask you, Tons of Fun right now is pulling away from Lawden. Lawden finished, he won Daytona, lagged out of Talladega. He had the points lead. He's kind of losing the draft of Tons a little bit. What is Lawden gonna do? What do you think he can do in the X Series? So let me rephrase that. He is now out of the Truck Series. My apologies, I forgot. He suffered a lag out of Talladega. He only ran 2 races in the Truck Series. Got called up to the X Series. What does that let you know? Does that open the window and open the door for a couple of these other drivers, knowing that a KMR veteran is now out of the series?
Yeah, but I mean, like we talked about, we got some very competitive guys that can definitely do good.
Absolutely. So moving on, we talked with Tons. We'll see what he can do in the Truck Series. He is going to race in the X Series as well, as I believe. So he will be driving the 23 in the X Series, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Tons right now is leading the point standings. We got K-Dog running 4th, who could probably be up there. Josh is currently hanging tight, tied with Lawden for 2nd place. He'll move up to 2nd in the points. So what do you think Josh could do in the Truck? He's been kind of struggling in the Cup Series. You know, he's a hot seat up there. What do you think he can kind of do? And what kind of opportunities do you think he could take advantage of this season in the Truck and X Series?
Well, since I know he probably practices a lot, and he's very, very competitive. Yes, he has some lag issues once in a while, but I think with more practice and just more racing, he'll be a contender. He's sticking right there with Tons and K Dog with everybody, so he might do really good.
Absolutely. You know, all the adversity that Josh has had to overcome. You know, he missed the league. He missed the Cup Series through the qualifier, lagged out of that. Missed the Daytona 500 and lagged again. Became a hot seat in the Cup Series, and has just not found, just not has had luck on his side to get that spot in the Cup Series. He's on a great team in the Cup Series, but to be in the lower series, he runs X and Cup and Truck. So to see him really high up in the point standings and having a good season, good start to the new season, is could be a really big confidence booster for him. It'll be really, really interesting to see what he can do now that we move kind of away from the restrictor plate tracks for a little bit. So I'm excited to see what Josh is capable of. I guarantee he'll get a win in that 83 truck. So it'll be really fun to see him go to victory lane. And now let's get to the statistics. So each restrictor plate race has had only 1 caution for the Truck Series. But now as I said before, we're moving away from kind of the restrictor plate tracks. You know, we've got Homestead next week. We've got the Charlotte Roval the week after that. We've got Michigan, Texas, Las Vegas. There's a lot of tracks until we get. In fact, there aren't any more restrictor plate tracks on the schedule from Daytona and Talladega. That's it. So is this the time where we really start to see who the actual contenders are for a championship and who might need to get a little bit more practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, Homestead may be easy to some, but it's a very tough track. And then you got the Charlotte Roval, which I don't think a lot of people like the Roval, but it's gonna take a lot of practice. But let me go to Michigan, Texas, Vegas, Kentucky. Those are some pretty easy and fast tracks, and I think anybody can win it.
Absolutely. So, drivers like Real Mac, Usual Trevor, the Outlaw, 10th and 11th in the point standings, they're still not out of it yet. Just because they're below, they're pretty far down there and they're 100 plus points behind the points leader, doesn't mean that they're not going to be in contention for a title. Just because they're not having the good start they are this time at the beginning of the season, it will be they'll definitely be able to get something going in the middle part of the season, so that way they'll be able to finish the playoffs on a high note, and hopefully either come away with the title or having a lot of momentum. Excuse me, coming in for next season. So it'll be this is a great talented roster up in here each and every week. I'm very impressed for them to only have one caution. So it'll be interesting to see what the Truck Series can do. I want to remind everybody the Truck Series races again July 25th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they're running 34 laps from Homestead Miami Speedway. That will be next weekend, July 25th. All right, so now we're going to move on to the X Series and get a chance to check out what is happening in there. And there's a lot to talk about in the X Series. But first, let's start out with this. Once again, the X Series is also postponed. Remember, all three series are postponed. The X Series is postponed until July 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is when their 50-lap shootout will occur from Homestead Miami Speedway. So let's get a chance to talk with so Josh, I got to ask you, this X Series roster is incredibly talented, but one name that stands out to me, he is fifth in the point standings, but Hair Bear, the defending X Series champion, is just his early season struggles is he seems to be struggling pretty early. He left CMR to join back to JGR, so he is or Junior Motorsports, excuse me. So he is now back in the 7 as he was last season. Do you think he is going to be? Do you think he is still a favorite to win to defend his title?
Honestly, like you said, there's a lot of people that can win the championship. You got Dunk, you got Josh, and Beloved, and you got Woozy. But I've raced with him, and he's a good driver. I think he'll come out of the slump sooner than you expect.
Absolutely. So he does have a teammate. The 9, I believe, is Dale Jr. So now knowing that he has a teammate, he didn't have a teammate when he was at CMR, if I'm correct. So what do you think Hairbear's got to do at Homestead? Like, how can he set the tone for his season? It's beginning. He finished 7th at Daytona. He finished 10th off the lead lap at Talladega, and it just seems that luck has not been on his side. How will Homestead give him the chance to kind of change the way that his season could play out?
Dunk?
It appears we have some technical difficulties. Josh, can you get a copy?
I'm back. Okay, that was weird. My controller turned off, and then
All right. So I'll
okay.
ask you the question again. So so we know Hairbear finished 7th and 10th at Daytona and Talladega respectively. It seems that he's kind of headed in the wrong direction at this point. How can he use Miami next week to kind of set the tone for his season? Like, what does he have to do in order to set the tone to all the other drivers that Hairbear is here to play and defend his title?
He's first off, he's gotta get his strategy down, practice, and then qualifying. If he does good in qualifying, he might be a threat in the race itself. And as long as he stays out of trouble, he's absolutely has a chance of winning Homestead.
I absolutely I can see that. I think for Hair Bear, he kind of he just kind of needs to be a little bit patient. We know the races are pretty short. It's a 50 lapper from Homestead. And it seems that his strategy just doesn't seem to pay out for him. He came a lap down at Talladega. I think he got spun out. It was only one car, so just luck hasn't been on the 7 side to start off the new season in the X Series. And especially, it gets tougher when your season isn't going the way you want it to, and all of a sudden, as different from last season, you've got big veterans in the X Series. You've got Rope in the X Series. You've got Big Red making a return in the X Series. You've got Dunker Wiz storming into the X Series. Dale Jr., a veteran, Cup veteran in the X Series. So all these different guys create a different mix and create a different battlefield for Hair Bear to navigate through, and a different course for Hair Bear to navigate through. So with all these returning veterans coming in, making the competition a little bit more difficult, he's got to prove and he's got to show the whole field that I'm the defending champion. I'm here. I'm not here to mess around. I'm here to defend my title, and this is how we get it done. So in order for him to prove that he still has what it takes to defend the title and be competitive, he's got to go out and win some races, and he's got to do it pretty quickly. These bad finishes of finishing deep in the field and off the lead lap isn't going to help his case. And the more finishes you kind of accumulate, you're back in the pack. You finish 10th, 9th, 8th, 10th, 9th, 8th each week. You're gonna lose confidence in yourself, knowing, okay, my strategy never works. What do I do? What can I do? And then so what he's got to do is kind of elaborate and kind of experiment with new strategies. Try and do something different than what the leaders are doing. And hopefully luck can stay on his side at Homestead next week. So since we talked about him a little bit, let's talk about Spheric Rope, who is driving for CMR. So I take that back. I believe Dale Jr. is by himself. We don't have a car to show, so we're going to show the 30 again. I don't think there's a 27 X Series. So let's talk about Spheric Rope. He missed Daytona. He ran last week at Talladega, ran pretty well for the beginning part of the race, and then kind of faded towards the end. We know Spheric Rope is a returning veteran from the Cup Series. What can he bring to the table for Miami? For some of the X Series, for some of these X Series drivers that haven't been in the Cup Series yet and kind of don't know what that competition is up there, what can they kind of learn from Spheric, and what kind of threat is Spheric Rope bringing to the track each and every week?
Ooh, that's really a tough question. He is a very fast driver. He's got the talent, and like you said, he's a veteran, and honestly, he's just fast, man. He's back in points in 7th, but he's still pretty much right there. It's early in the season, and yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say.
Absolutely. I think for Spheric Rope, he just got to, kind of get settled back into the fact that he's racing again, and he's racing in KMR. Just like myself, Spheric and I have kind of been out of the league a long time, so it's a little bit different than what it was back in N14 and NASCAR 15. The competition is a lot different, and I think for Spheric, he's able to bring some of that old school style racing and kind of learn from the guys that have been in the league a while, and kind of mash those two together, so that way he's able to be competitive and still run up front. We've seen that at times throughout the race. It doesn't seem that we have seen that at the right time of the race. So it'll be very, Very interesting to see what Spheric Rope can do throughout the season. He sits 7th in points right now, almost 94 points out from the leader. So that brings me to Josh the Game, another custom car, so we're going to stick with the 30. Josh gets the early win at Daytona, locks himself into the chase, and when it looked like things were going to run away, Josh just comes right back in. Josh currently sits 3 points behind points leader Dunker Wiz. So let's talk about Josh. We talked about him in the Truck Series. We talked about his struggles kind of in the Cup Series. We'll get to more on that when we get to the Cup Series. Josh has had some really good runs in the X Series. He won at Daytona, finished 4th at Talladega. What is going good for him, and what do you think that he can? What kind of foundation do you think he set for his season?
Well, now that he's got that win under his belt, he's got to compete, but he doesn't have to really push to do too much because he could slip up or something and fall back deep in the points. But he's been he's so it looks like he has the pole for both the first and second race, which I think is a very good thing to start out front in the beginning of the race, and it helps, as the race goes on, it helps him out, and he's there when it matters. And just like in Talladega, he was this close to winning it, but he's at least finished good.
Absolutely. I think for Josh, of all the adversity, once again, that he's gone through, I think this is a really good start to his season. It's a really good start to a promising season. He does have a lot of skill. He brings a lot of skill to the table, a lot of aggressiveness on the racetrack, and he's not afraid to make a move that some other drivers might be afraid to make. And when he does make that move, it gets him up to the front, and I think that's something unique about him. So to the just because that he hasn't made it in the Cup Series, he's definitely made it in the X Series and the Truck Series. He's making noise, which I think is a good confidence booster. Like I said before, for drivers, if you have a good start to the season, your expectations get a little bit higher. You tend to make moves you probably wouldn't have made if you weren't so happy with the way your season was going. And so for Josh, this is probably the start that he needs. This is the kind of confidence booster that he needs to help him for the Cup Series. When he gets that hot seat spot, he's going to have all this confidence from the X Series and the Truck Series to kind of help him out in the Cup Series, so that way he can be successful at the highest level. So for me, as a driver as well in the X Series, this is very, very important as a driver to start off on a good note. If you start off on a good note, potentially your season is going to end on a good note, and you're going to have a nice, smooth season. You don't really have to worry about a big hole to climb out of right off the bat. It's like, oh, you started at Daytona, you finished last, all of a sudden you're 80 points behind the leader. And you just kind of got to slowly work your way back up. You got to go through a bunch of adversity. So for me, this is awesome for Josh. This is phenomenal for him. He's got 2 poles already. He won the pole for both Daytona and Talladega. But now the real test comes at Miami. What can he do at Miami? What kind of statement can he make to the rest of the field that he is competitive off of restrictor plate tracks? Because being competitive on a restrictor plate track is one thing. Being competitive on a restrictor plate track, a half mile, a mile and a half, 2 mile track, they're different. If you are competitive on a restrictor plate track, but you're not so competitive on the half miles, mile and a half, 2 miles, it's not going to go very well. But for Josh, he's competitive everywhere. I feel like he's competitive on the restrictor plate tracks. He's competitive on the mile and a half miles. I just think, maybe in some situations need to have a little bit more confidence in himself that he can get the job done. He got the job done at Daytona with the help of Cook, so that was good for him. It's a good confidence booster because he has a win under his belt. And that is also another important factor for him is he can kind of relax just a little bit. He doesn't have to push as hard as some of these other drivers like Mike Bliss, Terrier, who sit ninth and 10th, maybe Big Red in 8th, maybe even Tresh in 6th, and maybe Chris in 5th. They've kind of got to push a little bit because the cutoff line for the X Series, I think, is 9, if I'm correct.
I thought
No,
that
I
was
take
Cup
that back. I think it's
Series.
12. I think it's
Yeah.
12th for the Chase cutoff line. So right now, everybody in the point standings in the roster that has raced in the X Series is in the playoffs. And for Josh, he's the only one that has a win that's locked in. Talladega was won by a non-X driver who just subbed. Dopey Lion won that race at Talladega, but he doesn't get any points for that. He doesn't race in the X Series. Josh is currently the only the only driver in the series with a win. No one else has a win, and so for him, kind of relax. He's in the chase. You don't want to get too far off. You don't just want to sit back and relax. You can kind of lay back in your chair a little bit each and every week. But for all these other guys, they got to go out and try and beat the 83 because that 83 has a win. He's still going to try and look for wins if he can. So it'll be. I'm excited to see what Josh can do on the racetrack. He definitely has the skill and the potential to get another win, to steal more wins from these other drivers. As we head closer to the chase, those extra wins that he can steal will be important. So now we're going to talk about the driver of the 00. Probably one of the biggest stories the last 2 weeks in the X Series because of strategy. Dunker Wiz is currently the points leader. He leads the points by 3 over second place Josh the Game. And for Dunker, he is just getting tough breaks. It's just pit strategy. We talked about it at Daytona, how him coming back into the modern era for the first time ever was going to be a little bit different for him, but he has seemed to make it work. He has seemed to figured out the system. So Josh, I got to ask you, what do you think Dunker Wiz is going to be able to do at Miami, knowing he is oh so close to victory from Daytona and Talladega? Do you
Well,
think he'll be able to grab that checkered flag at Miami?
I mean, he's a bad fast driver, and Miami is a tough track, but he is a veteran and a champion, and I think he knows what it takes to win a race. And when you go to Miami, you gotta just race, stay out of trouble, race. And he's stayed out of trouble the first 2 races. He's gotten third, he's gotten second. Basically, he's right there. So I feel like he definitely has a chance to win Miami.
Absolutely. This 00 is dangerous. He's dangerous on he's dangerous on the track. He started pretty deep in the field. I think he started 5th at Daytona. Started 3rd at Talladega, but again, he's consistent with those finishes. He finished 3rd at Daytona, finished 2nd at Talladega, and it came down to pit stops. His pit strategy seemed to bite him in the butt. At Daytona, he was leading, took 4 tires instead of 2, came out a second and a half behind the race leaders. At Talladega, did the exact same thing, took 4 tires instead of 2, and just missed the leader and got another close finish. So a little bit closer than it was at Daytona, but this 00 is dangerous. Like I said, this is the kind of competition Hairbear doesn't want to have to deal with, because if Dunker Wiz can get off to a blazing start before Hairbear can even find the smallest rhythm, it's going to be impossible for that 7 to catch up to Dunker. Dunker is a veteran, like Josh said. He's a veteran and a champion. He knows what it takes to win in any series that he'll race in. He knows how to do it on the track. So watch out for the 00 next weekend at Miami, he might be the threat that Hair Bear didn't want to see and didn't want to have to chase, because he may pull away fairly quickly. So again, we're going to talk about a couple more drivers. Let's talk about some call-up drivers that made some noise in the X Series. We're going to talk about Tresh in the 19. And so Tresh running the 19. Finished third at Talladega, his first race in the X Series. I don't believe he was called up. I believe he was scheduled to run. But we're gonna call him a call-up driver just because that's what I feel. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, oops.
I think he was.
But I think he was a call-up driver. But anyway, the 19 of Tresh finished third at Talladega. Had a chance. Had a fighting chance to pass Dunker. If they had another lap, he probably would have. What does Tresh? I'm gonna rephrase this question. So what is Tresh's season gonna look like from your perspective, Josh? Knowing he's got a good start from Talladega, what could he do at Miami to make a statement?
Well, Talladega, he was a bit aggressive, but like he said, he got third place, and I don't know. He just needs to keep racing his race. He did good in Talladega, and I don't know. Just needs to race his race, keep practicing, and he could be a contender. Absolutely. After that third place, out of just getting called up, he has the skill to do it. It's a bad fast 19 car.
Absolutely. So he is a Toyota. He's got Beloved and Woozy with him as well as teammates. How could he learn off of a veteran like Beloved to kind of make his way through the X Series? Like what do you think he could do on the racetrack with Beloved, a veteran from the Cup Series, on his team?
He's just gotta learn from him, honestly. If he needs help, he should go to him. He's absolutely a very bad fast driver. He's just great. He needs to learn from him, because I know I have, and I'm sure you have at some point. And Beloved is fighting to do good in this series, and I think Trayshawn just needs to follow in his footsteps.
Absolutely. We have seen Beloved have success in the X Series. Running great so far. Standing third, 40 points behind Josh, 43 points behind Dunker Wiz. So those two have created some separation from Beloved and Joe Gibbs. But watch out for the 19, the 20, and the 18. They may sneak up on anybody. But first, we want to take a quick moment. Want to thank all of our 4 viewers for tuning in to this kind of special speed report. Once again, I'm guest host Dunker Wiz for the first time running the speed report, and I've got Josh the Game up here with me. So once again, want to thank all of the 4 viewers for tuning in. Remember, you can check out everything KMR on the official KMR website, www.thegamingrift.com. There is league news and stats and point standings and the schedule for each series, the Truck X and Cup Series. So remember, www.thegamingrift.com for your league updates dealing with KMR. And in the chat, we've got Wesley Racing saying big tough start, but consistent with the finishes, referring to Dunker Wiz, and then referring to Tresh that he's got a chance at a championship. I completely agree with that. If he can play his cards right, the 19, with a veteran like Beloved on his team, and he can kind of learn from him, I definitely feel like if he once again can play his cards right, he can be in that spot to be a contender for a championship. But he's got some competition to deal with in that SHR 00 and the 7. So once again, we're gonna talk about. I just repeat myself once again. Oh my goodness. So now we're going to move on to Whelp Dang. So Lawden, we talked about earlier, is going to leave his spot in the Truck Series and move from CMR to the 98 of SHR and joins up with Dunker. So now Dunker Wiz has a teammate, and Whelp Dang. So now SHR is full for the X Series. What does this add to SHR, to not only SHR, but also to a already talented X Series roster?
It's gonna make things more fun. Absolutely. He can race. I've seen him race, and it's astonishing of what he can do. And it's just gonna be a tough season in the X series. So you guys gotta definitely watch it. And he'll sneak up on you like nothing, and then just go right by you. So I just watch out for him. He'll sneak up in those points and definitely get a top 5. Absolutely.
I can agree with that 100%. Lawden, or Whelp Dang as he would like to be called now, has Cup experience. He started winning KMR Cup races at a very young age. He was one of the youngest drivers ever in KMR, is probably still one of the youngest drivers in KMR. And he decides to leave the Truck Series. He got called up last week, was unable to make the race, but still was able to maintain his spot. Because remember, once you get called up, you are eligible for the series you got called up for, even if you can't make it for that one race. So he takes the 98. He joins up with the 00. How dangerous is this SHR team going to be now with 2 Cup veterans on the same team?
Well, you better pack your bags and probably should move to the side for them. They're gonna be, they're gonna be really fast. Oh my, I am so excited to see what these two can do. And as you can see, Dunk is already dominating the field so far. And now with Volp Dang on his side, woo, you better watch out.
Well, from a driver's perspective, I'm happy that I'm able to have Whelp Dang on my team. He's going to bring a lot to the table, and he was really excited to be a part of this SHR team in the X Series. So congrats to him on being called up and taking over the 98 on what is now going to be a really stacked SHR team in the X Series. So now let's just continue on this for the call-up drivers. So we've got Tons of Fun, who has also been called up in the X Series. He is going to drive the 23 of John Hunter Nemechek, and he is going to make his debut in the X Series next week at Homestead Miami Speedway. I want to remind everybody once again, for the new viewers tuning in, all KMR races this coming weekend have been postponed to next weekend, to July 25th and 26th weekend. So just another disclaimer: this weekend, no KMR races. The decision was made by league owner Sam Cook earlier this evening, hours before the broadcast. So July 25th and July 26th will be the dates of the KMR Homestead races. The Truck and X Series will race on July 25th, beginning with the Truck Series at 6 p.m. The X Series will race at 8 p.m. at Homestead, and then on the 26th, it will be the Cup Series at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So now let's get back to the 23 of John Hunter, not John Hunter, which that was oof. Guys, it's my first time hosting this KMR Speed Report. We got to get the flaws out right now, and we got to get them out live on the broadcast. So let's talk about the 23 of Tons of Fun. He gets called up last week, is unable to make the ride, but is going to be available at Homestead next week. He is fast. He is also dangerous. What can he bring what kind of strategy do you think you got to play out to try and beat a guy like Tons?
That's a tough question, man. Tons, he's really fast, honestly, and I even sometimes have difficulty competing against him, especially at those restrictor plays. But now that that's passed, now you got a real fight to see if he can prove that he's bad fast at these other tracks, which I think he is. So he just just gotta play by what he does, and then hope he makes a mistake, because he's doesn't really make those much. So you gotta get on that, get those opportunities, and succeed with them.
So if you were drivers like beloved Josh and Dunker Wiz, the top three in the point standings, are you worried about this 23 car entering the lineup, or are you just kind of maybe blowing it off a little bit, like it's just another car, I can still go out and win?
Well, as you can see what he's done in the truck so far, I think you should definitely retract that statement, because he can race. He's done it. He's shown it in Truck Series by just racing those first two races, and he's gonna definitely be able to compete for the cup in that series.
Absolutely. So, Tons of Fun is going to look to make his X Series debut next weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway on July 25th, beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe you can also catch him running the Truck Series race on the 87 Nemaco Motorsports Chevrolet at 6 p.m. Eastern Time as well. Be sure to check out those races on twitch.tv/Jaron Hazen or twitch.tv/DunkerWiz. One of us will have the broadcast for that race, for the truck race, and then you can check out Twitch Monster 27 or Jaron Hazen again for the X Series race, and then check out twitch.tv/Tons of Fun Broadcast Network for all Cup Series races. And that leads me into the next series. We're going to get a chance. Now let's talk about the series that everybody's been waiting for, the KMR Cup Series. And my goodness, HMS, Hendrick Motorsports, have just come out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, HMS has 2 victories under their belts in the first 2 races. So, we talked about it in the preseason speed report a couple of weeks ago, of how many people thought HMS was going to be kind of on the low side, down low, kind of, they're there, but no one really knows about you yet. As they continue to build for maybe next season, many of us thought they weren't going to be a threat until at least next season, if not the season after. But Josh, I gotta ask you, did you ever think that HMS was gonna come out of the dormant state and just win 2 out of the 2 races so far?
Honestly, watching those races, they they came out of nowhere, like you were saying, and I'm definitely surprised how they have won the first 2 races so far of this season. But I don't know that if they'll be even able to compete. I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
Absolutely. The start that HMS has, just on a thunderous start to start season 41, and everybody else is looking at them and thinking, is this a fluke? Was it just a one-off deal last week from Daytona? We know Speed B won the Daytona 500, and everybody was like, it's just a one-off deal. They won the first race. They won't win for a while. All of a sudden, here comes Annihilator in the 88, taking another victory for HMS. They have 2 victories already. No other team has a win yet. All the drivers that have won this season have been from HMS. And so we look at a guy. So let's go to our Talladega winner. Let's talk about Annihilator. Since we're on the topic of HMS, let's talk about the 88 of Annihilator. So Annihilator got the pole at Daytona. He's now the Cup points leader, and he wins the Talladega race. If you're Annihilator, what are you planning? Like, how are you gonna prepare for Homestead?
What he's done those first, especially Talladega. I mean, I know it's a restrictor plate, but he he did some good strategy, and look at him now. Now he's a points leader, and he's just got to keep practicing and working out his setup and his strategy. And I think he definitely has a chance of going after the cup.
Absolutely. So, Annihilator is now the points leader. What do you think HMS can do? We got HMS now has 4 drivers on their team. The 9 car was filled yesterday. So breaking news once again, but we're gonna get into that in just a moment. Dunker Wiz has moved from the 10 to the 9. Dunker Wiz will no longer be at SHR. He has chosen to leave and has moved to the 9 car. So now, Speed B, Dunker, Spheric Rope, and Annihilator, pretty much all KMR veterans. So now, are you afraid of HMS?
I don't know. Just because they gained that driver, I mean, they all are veterans, but you still got those other teams that do also have veterans that can definitely compete with them. But we guess we gotta see how they do throughout the season.
Absolutely. So it was reported earlier in the week that Dunker Wiz has chosen to end his contract with SHR and join up with Speed B, Spheric Rope, and Annihilator at HMS. Dunker will now be in the 9 car beginning at Homestead next week. No contract details have been released yet. However, KMR officials have announced that will be probably in the next speed report, and it most likely will be on the website next week. So this is a big move, probably the biggest move of the season so far. The 9 is filled, and it goes to a past champion, so that'll be interesting to see what Dunker can do in a Chevrolet, and now has an alliance with CMR. So that is probably the biggest story in the Cup Series as of this week. And so we'll follow up more on this story as the week goes on, and see what Dunker can do in a Chevrolet. So that will be very exciting to watch. As let's talk about the 24 of Spheric Rope. We're going to continue with HMS. Spheric Rope has done pretty decent. He's kind of hung in there. Had a decent start to the season, but kind of fired it up just a little bit at Talladega. What can we see from Spheric Rope now that he's got 3 other HMS cars out there that are willing to work with him?
Like you said, they just gotta work together, figure out the strategy, and just dominate the race. That's really all he can do. Just practice and just gotta be faster than any other drivers.
Absolutely. Again, I think for Spheric Rope, knowing that the team that he has at HMS and then the alliance he has at CMR, it's just all these Chevrolets might actually dominate some of the season. It looked like SHR at the beginning of the season and in the preseason was going to take over again, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems that these Chevrolets and Toyotas are kind of forming up against those Fords. And who knows what could happen this season. This is probably going to be a very interesting season for KMR as we approach and are continuing Season 41 of KMR and Season 8 of the Modern Era. So now let's move on to another HMS driver. Let's talk about Speed B. So Speed B is the Daytona 500 winner. He was not a good finish at Talladega. Was finished 9th and a lap down. However, still managed to hold on to third in the point standings. So the top five, in the top five, 3 HMS cars, 4 Chevrolets are in the top 5 of the point standings. What is going on here? There's a lot to talk about. So let's talk about Speed B. I just repeated myself. That was an accident. Oh well. So
Come on,
Speed
Dom, get
B.
it together.
Again, I know I'm working on it, guys.
It's
I'm
all
working on
right.
it. But
Take your
anyway,
time,
Speed
man.
B. So Speed B he had a rocky start at Talladega. But knowing that now he has a full squad at HMS again, this is probably going to be the story of the season, is that HMS is now full. So what can Speed B do, knowing that he's in the chase already? Now Annihilator is in the playoffs, so 2 of the 4 HMS cars are in the playoffs already. What can Speed B do to kind of help his teammates in Dunker and Spheric to kind of help them get to victory lane?
Yeah, I honestly really don't know the answer to that question, but just they just gotta work together. Just keep working together. But I mean, it was restrictor plates. They could all of a sudden just take a dip and not do good at all, but we won't know until we get into those first couple tracks like Homestead and the Roval.
Absolutely. This could all of a sudden, HMS could be the trending story of being of having a thunderous start to this season, of coming out of a dormant state, but then all of a sudden we go to we go to Homestead and we go to Charlotte and then we go to Pocono, and all of a sudden HMS is at the bottom of the list and no one's really talking about him anymore. So all of a sudden, that's how quick things can change here in KMR. A team can be really high, drivers can be really good, and then all of a sudden they just dip, and it's like no one ever heard of them, and they're just at the bottom of the hole. However, I do feel this HMS team is different. Knowing that they now have the addition of Dunker coming in to the 9 car, I think this HMS team is going to be dangerous. I think on the non-restrictor plate tracks, they're still going to be competitive. They may not get some wins, but they're going to be contending for wins each and every week. So for those of you betting against HMS, I would rethink that. This team is dangerous, especially with the alliance to CMR. And now we're going to get a chance to talk about CMR, so let's move on. I don't really know all the drivers in CMR, but I do know one is the 72 of Wesley. Now, Wesley stormed onto the KMR Cup map last season. I don't have a 72, so we're going to stick with the 00. So Wesley stormed onto the map last season, got a win at Bristol, the final race. There was a lot of controversy about his driving style. However, he seems to be a competitor. So what are we going to expect from him going into Homestead? A track he is pretty good at. We've seen him race there before. He is a pretty good racer at Homestead. So how difficult is it going to be for all these other drivers to try and compete with the 72 at a track that he is pretty good at?
Honestly, I just say good luck because he is bad fast at Homestead. He's really probably gonna blow everyone out of the water, but I don't know. It's gonna be a tough battle for all the other drivers to beat him, but there's that chance he might mess up on pit road. He might make an error, bobble coming out of 2 or 4, but they pray that he messes up because he is bad fast.
Absolutely. I don't know what is up with Wesley, but he is proven that he can race with the Cup guys. He is just absolutely proven that he knows what it takes to race up here with the Cup guys. He's shown it before. He went from the Truck Series last season, didn't get the championship, felt that it was taken from him, but then he comes to the Cup Series. He subs for someone, I think. He got a hot seat and was able to race and was able to stay into the series, and then gets a top 10 position. So now he's locked into this season. And so far, these past 2 races, especially at Talladega, he has proven himself. He's now up to 4th in points. He was 9th in points from Daytona after a bad finish, but it seems he has gotten his stuff together and is going to be probably a really big title threat as the season goes on. So once he gets a win, he's probably not gonna stop. Once he gets a win, it's just gonna keep going for Wesley. So I do think that he can get himself in the chase, no doubt. I think he can advance in the chase. But definitely in Homestead, he's going to be probably the favorite. So we'll keep an eye on the 72 of Wesley as he looks to continue his Cup career as we move on to a track that favors him pretty well. So now let's move on to the 27 of Cookie, the league owner and the owner of Cookie Monster Racing and CMR. Cookie he dug himself a hole. So coming out of Daytona, he DNF'd, was 15th in points, had 8 points coming into Talladega. And it just seemed like this hole could probably have been too much for him to overcome. Now, obviously, we have seen in previous seasons, Cookie always gets in a hole to start the season. He always does something wrong, or something happens to him. The luck just isn't on his side at the beginning of each season. But by the end of the season, he is able to put himself in championship contention and fight for that 8th championship. So, Josh, Cookie, after Talladega, a track that he loves a lot, coming to Miami, he still sits 12th in points. What does he need to do to build up confidence where he knows and he can feel each and every week that he has a winning race car?
He needs those good finishes. He can't be going off his wheels and DNFing like that. But he made a good comeback in Talladega, and I can see it happening where he's going to get in the front. He's really fast, and he is a league owner, so you'd expect him to be fast, which I know he's fast personally. So I think that Daytona race was just bad luck, and he's still going to march his way up from 12th in points to like 5th place. I know he can do it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that Cookie has what it takes to get him to move himself up the ladder and contend for a championship each and every season. It'll be fun to watch him climb the ladder once again and see if he can go for his 8th KMR Cup championship. And now we move on to Ghost Train. Ghost Train has kind of been struggling just a little bit. He sits just above his team owner in 11th with 70 points. Ghost Train, I believe, finished outside of the top 5 in each of the 2 races. Yes, he did. He only has one top 10 out of the 2 races, so he's kind of sitting back there in 11th. Again, what can Ghost do? You know, how can he feed off of Cookie, and how can he feed off of Wes and all the speed that they have? How can they bring it to him where he's able to contend for wins as well?
He needs to just like Trey Sean, he needs to follow in their footsteps and see what they're doing. You know, they got to help him out, give him some setups, and just practice on him and hope that he is really fast. And I can see that he will be very fast too. He's just like Sam. He hasn't really had too great of a start, but he can climb his way through it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that anybody on CMR can climb out of a hole, and all of a sudden, by the end of the season, they compete for championships. So it'll be interesting to see what Ghost Train can do. He had a decent season last season, was able to make his way into the top 10, and here he is. He sits 11th in points, but he sure has a good season ahead of him if he can play his cards right. Now we're going to talk about Hair Bear in the 15 for CMR. New, I think he's new this year. New number at least. So Hair Bear is the defending X Series champion. and is also racing Cup. So he's kind of got a lot going. He's got a lot on his plate each and every weekend. He's got to go against Dunker, Spheric in the X Series for a championship. He's got to catch up to them in the Cup Series. He has to make up for what happened from Daytona. He missed the Daytona 500, so he only raced Talladega. He sits 10th in points, though. Had a good day. I think he finished sixth. I could be wrong, but so it'll be. So I'm excited to see what Chris can do. But let me ask you, Chris missed the Daytona 500. How much do you just want to go on the racetrack and just show everybody up? How mad are you that you missed the Daytona 500, that you missed the weekend of KMR, and then you show up to Talladega? Like, how angry are you when you hop in that car?
Uh, I don't know how angry are you, but you're very hungry. Absolutely. When you miss that first week, you're just dying to get back out on that track. And as you can see, even though he raced one race, he got ahead of a few drivers who raced not the both races, and he's in 10th place. So he is definitely hungry.
Absolutely. Hairberry's got a lot on his plate right now, but he's definitely being able to balance. He's definitely able to balance it fairly well, and so I'm excited to see what strategy he plays each and every week, and what he uses from the X Series and implements it in the Cup Series. What different things that he will put in for each race on Sunday. So that is the Chevrolet department. We know we're extended, and we know we're kind of going through each driver, and this might be a little bit long, a little bit different. But we do appreciate all the 4 viewers for tuning in. We were up to 6 at one point, so I want to thank everybody tuning in to this unique KMR Speed Report. As Cookie celebrates his and his wife's wedding anniversary, Josh and I are glad to take over for this week. Fractured would be in here, but I believe he is busy doing some other things, so we wish him well as also. But now let's move on to Ford, and here's where the stories get a little bit juicy. So SHR now has 3 cars.
Juicy.
One car which does not show up. So Dunker leaves SHR. Lion and Paint are now the only 2 drivers that have consistently run this season. How do they feel? How do they feel? Like, what level of disrespect do they feel that a former champion just flat out says goodbye and joins a rival manufacturer and also a rival team?
They must feel very disgusted, but I mean, they may be disgusted that someone like him would leave, but I mean, it clearly doesn't seem to affect Paintbrush since he's sitting second in points and only 13 points back from first. So I mean, we will see in Homestead if that him leaving will affect them.
Absolutely. I mean, this news was just shocking to everybody. It's going to shock the whole league that a big name like Dunker Wiz has cut ties with SHR prematurely, just said goodbye and he left, and took a rival car and is now a part of HMS. He will drive the remainder of the season, it appears. But
Yeah.
now Paintbrush is a champion. He won the championship at SHR. He's back at SHR, sitting second in points, but he's got Chevrolets all around him in the point standings. We know he can win races, but how difficult is it going to be when you've got a bunch of Chevrolets all around you and you only have 2 other teammates in the field?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but I mean, as you can see, he's done absolutely amazing since he's, like you said, he's sitting second in points. So he must be definitely not affected by this because he's just racing his heart out.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, down below, we're going to talk about his teammate. I messed up, guys. I apologize again. I forgot to go to the 4. I just kept it on the 00. You know, that's probably what we do. That's just probably what we should do. Just keep it on the 00. That's the KMR car of the year. So there's the 4 of Paintbrush. Again, sitting second in points, 13 points behind the lead. Annihilator currently owns it. But then you've got Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota, Chevrolet is the next spots down. So Paint has some juggling to do. He's got some competition, and he's got some fierce Chevrolet bow ties coming after him. So now we're going to talk about his teammate in the 14, Dopey Lion. So Dopey Lion is the defending series champion, and he is running the 14. So both Paint and Dopey are locked into the playoffs, and the reason and how they got locked in is they won each of the stages in the Daytona 500. That is the only stage race in KMR. It is the only way you can lock yourself into the chase without actually winning the race. So Dopey, Wesley said in the chat, Dopey is consistent, so I think he's still a contender. If Paint keeps his cool, he's a contender for wins as well, and I can agree with that. You know, a lot of drivers have temper issues, and they let things cloud their judgment and cloud their minds where they're not able to get wins. So definitely each driver should keep a clear mind and are contenders for wins if they keep their cool. But for Lion, he's kind of struggled a little bit. He had a DNF at Daytona, did not finish that race, actually wrecked on the last corner of the last lap. Coming to the checkered flag, he DNF'd, he flipped, so he got no points. Or he got last place points. So now he currently sits 9th in the standings, almost 70 points back behind the leader. What kind of hole is he climbing out of, and is it going to be difficult for him to climb out of this hole?
Yeah, especially since, you know, he doesn't drive a Chevy, he drives a Ford, and, you know, it's going to be tough. And I think he just needs to not flip or wreck on the final lap in the final corner. he needs to stay on his wheels, needs to focus around him, but other than that, he's just got to practice, race his heart out, don't wreck, and he should be perfectly fine to dig out of this hole.
Absolutely. Once again, a driver like Dopey knows how to get out of these types of holes and knows how to get out of these types of situations. The only question is how fast can he do it? He was 14th in points coming into Talladega. He's gained 5 positions since then in the driver's standings. So it'll be very interesting to see what he does the rest of the season. So that's kind of the Ford category. We JPS in the 21 had racked up a top 3 at Talladega. So JPS in the 21 JPS drove the 11 car last season for Joe Gibbs. He moves back to Ford, and he moves back into a car that he's had a lot of success in. Where's the 20? So as I continue to search for a car that I've already seen multiple times, how long do you think it's going to be before JPS is able to take the Wood Brothers 21 Ford back to victory lane?
It's going to be tough. I mean, he left a very, very good team in JGR, but I mean, this 21 car is definitely that fast.
Absolutely. He's had a lot of success in this 21 car, and I think it's a good spot for him. He's a one-car team. He can focus on himself. He can, he just seems to have a lot of success in this car, and I think it's good for him. It's a good confidence booster. So definitely for him, he's going to be able to keep up the good finishes, and hopefully soon he can knock out that donut hole in the win column and hit this Ford Mustang to victory lane. So that's going to be about it. On the Ford company, we've got Fractured Chain in the 20. A big name you might see at the bottom of the list. Fractured Chain is sitting 13th in points right now. He missed the Daytona 500 yet again. The last time he actually made the 500 was the time he won the Daytona 500. So there's the 20th Fractured Chain sitting pretty deep in the field in the point standings. So it'll be so if you're Fractured Chain and you're a big name like him, what do you do? Like, what do you need to do to get back into championship competition?
I mean, he's got his teammates around him, and he's fast. He's just, he missed the first race, and he gained, like one of the other guys who didn't race the first race. He gained a bunch of spots, and I think he can easily come out of that hole, and just needs to, race and practice, and he should be up there in the front too, battling for the lead and hopefully maybe winning a race.
Absolutely. So it'll be. I'm excited to see what Fractured Chain can do. I thought he's a four-time champion in the Cup Series. So unfortunately, he was unable to be with us tonight. I believe he's got some other things going on in iRacing potentially. So we wish him the best of luck if he's competing in a race. And we look forward to having the Speed Crew back next week. But Beloved. Let's move on to the 18 of Beloved. We're gonna try and wrap this up as quick as possible. So the 18 of Beloved. We all talked about Beloved at the beginning of the season of how this might be his last season, or how last season might have been his last season. So to see him seventh in the point standings. He ran third at Daytona at one point, almost had a shot for the lead, and then just lost the draft. How do you think this season is going to play out for the 18?
I mean, it's gonna be tough, but he's just got to race. I mean, I was almost shocked that he almost left, but I think he just keep doing good. He needs to practice. He needs to get help from his other teammates. He is a veteran, so he knows how to race, but he he's just got to keep racing his race, and coming up to Homestead, he could do good. He's in a Toyota Camry, and I think he's got a chance also to run up front. Just got to stick to it.
I can agree with you on that one. I think Beloved, he has stated that all of this constructive criticism on the speed report has actually helped him become more competitive on the racetrack. And I think that's really good for a driver to take some negative things that someone else is saying and turn them into the fuel for the fire. And I think he has done that extremely well. He was running really fast and really, really aggressively at Daytona to the point where he was actually able to get up to third. And everybody was so confused. It's like, oh my gosh, the 18 is up here. And he was racing until he was racing up there until lost the draft and got shuffled out. And then at Talladega, kind of the same thing. He was running up there for moments, but that shows a sign that he might have something in store for the season. So it'll be really exciting to see what Beloved can do with the fuel for the fire, and hopefully it could potentially put him into championship running at the end of the season. But definitely watch out for this 18 because he may sneak up upon any driver out on the racetrack. Wesley says in the chat that Beloved will be a championship contender, no doubt. So that is obviously really good signs to come for the 18 team and for Joe Gibbs. But let's move on to the 11 of Josh the Game. Again, a hot seat, so he was unable to get a chance to run at Talladega. Was called up to run at Talladega, but unfortunate internet issues prevented him from doing so. So just a quick shout out to him for running in the Truck and X Series but also trying to make every effort to run the Cup Series. I think it's good that Fractured has given him the opportunity to run in the 11 FedEx Express Toyota Camry when he's able to get in. And I guarantee you, this 11 car, once he gets into the field, he sits 17th in the point standings. He's only 5 points behind Dale Jr. It'll be very interesting to see what happens towards the bottom of the point standings and if the 11 car will make it into the series full time. So again, there are a couple of hot seats. We got Flurinator in 19th, Mixer JV in 18th as a hot seat. Josh the Game in 17th are the hot seats. Dale Jr. currently the last car locked in as of now with 30 points. Josh the Game 5 points behind him. So it'll be very interesting to see what he can do. So that is going to wrap up the speed report for this evening. We thank everybody for tuning in once again. You can check out everything KMR on the official website, www.thegamingriff.com. And want to remind everybody once again of the breaking news that surfaced earlier. All KMR races this weekend have been moved to next weekend. So just a reminder to everybody, please spread the word that there is no KMR racing this weekend. We will race again at Homestead on July 25th and 26th. Again, the website, check the news section for more additional news on this situation. The updated schedule will be posted on the website, so just be sure to keep constantly checking the website. Josh, I want to thank you for joining me up here in our Speed Report debut. It's been a lot of fun. I really do enjoy having someone up here with me, so thank you for taking the time to join me up here in the Speed Report. And next week, we look forward to Cookie being back, the regular Speed crew being back next week for the KMR Speed Report week number 4 as we get ready to go. So next week, we'll have another Speed Report. We'll get ready to go for Homestead. We'll make our Homestead Miami Speedway predictions next week on the KMR Speed Report. So please tune in to twitch.tv/TwitchMonster27 for the Speed Report next week. And be sure to check out the official broadcasts, Twitch of Dunker Wiz, myself, Jaron Hayes, and FC, and the Tons of Fun Broadcast Network for all your official broadcasts of the KMR trucks, the X Series, and the Cup Series. And for Josh and Dunker, this is KMR
Signing off.
off.